Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Here is a video called Vorsprung durch Fzf and Rofi. I'm going to show you two scripts which give you quick access to your SDR bookmarks that you would tune on an RTLSDR or a list of streaming internet radio stations. Either way, the goal is fast and light access to signals. We'll eliminate the ancient radio button lists that you have probably used in the past. We're going to use fuzzy search. That'll help you select and execute quickly, and the lists will be easy to access and edit. Why Rofi and Fzf? In short, those two tools function like a Vegematic in reverse. You take a long list of many entries. In computer code, that would be an array variable, and you push it through, and on the other side, you have a very nicely sorted menu with fuzzy search. You can actually start writing the name of what you're looking for. The search will update, and hopefully, the thing you're looking for will move to the top of the list. Fzf is set up to work on the command line, and we're going to use Rofi to work in a graphical mode. Essentially, you pull up a list, make a choice, and run with it. If it needs to ask you another question, you'll get another list, and you'll work through it the same way. Scroll up and down, or begin entering the name of what you're looking for, choose it, and off you go. Let's start with the VLC playlist. Now, I don't have any particular affinity to VLC. I have it here because it's popular, it works well, it has a nice EQ and compressor filter that you can program on the command line. But you don't have to use VLC, you can use a different player. All you need is something that you can work with on the command line to send out a URL and other parameters. Okay, I'll demonstrate first with Rofi and then on the command line. I'll put away the text for a bit. We'll bring up Rofi, move down, VLC playlist. First, a menu pops up with the initial choices: start listening, stop, or edit the list. Let me show you the list first. When I select to edit the list, Vim comes up, and we essentially have two entries on each line. On the left, there's a URL. On the right, in quotes, is a description of the station. It's that simple. Let's go back in. VLC radio playlist. This time, let's listen to something. BBC Radio 4. It takes a few seconds to establish contact with the remote server. When that's
There's a potential to reduce a patient's risk of relapse. It's been a good night for British actors at the Golden Globes. Rosamund Pike, Sacha Baron Cohen and John Boyega were among a host of stars from the UK to pick up awards. Josh O'Connor received a Best Actor accolade for his portrayal of Prince Charles in the Netflix drama The Crown.
Thank you so much to everyone who makes The Crown what it is. I've had the time of my life making this show, so thank you to everyone at Netflix and all the producers.
Stop. Now, there was one rather amusing event that happened while I was working on the script. I had one station running, we'll call it BBC Radio 4, and I was working on the ability to switch from one station to another.
Opportunities that disadvantage kids. We find
and
out
I ended
how
up with
in
something
My
that
Name
didn't
Is
switch,
at
but
11.
simply started to
But
stream.
now on Radio
so
4,
I ended up
it's
with
time for
multiple
Woman's Hour with Emma
streams
Barnett.
playing at once.
Good morning. Another Monday, another week, another day of your lockdown look, if I can call it that. We have a lot in today's programme, but a key question surely of our times, and I ask as someone nursing the deepest and darkest roots, going with no hint of irony, of course, bearing the surname Barnett.
Another stream will start. Notice that the BBC has stopped. We have a short pause while contact is established with a different server.
times during the past 10 days, police have swooped down on foreign beatniks and swept them off the famous Spanish steps. A dozen Germans and Charles P. Arno, ABC Rome.
The graphical version of the VLC radio playlist. We'll stop streaming. Let's go to the command line. And let's see, I think I have it in here. If you want to use the graphical interface from the command line, the command is VLC playlist space GUI. Do that and you get it. All right. If you want to stay on the command line, just simply VLC playlist, and there it is. Start, stop, edit. And here's a list. Hey, let's find out what Brother Stare is up to today. How many seconds will it take to bring in Brother Stare?
That he have a short time.
Just a few.
May God help us. Lies and deceit.
All right, I'm going to stop streaming, clear things up a bit. And let's go back to my notes. We've talked about the VLC playlist, demonstrated it. Let's go into SDR bookmarks. They work similar to the VLC playlist, which itself is based on a separate application, which has been out for a while. It's called SurfRaw Bookmarks. You may be familiar with that. So anyway, VLC has been demonstrated. SDR bookmarks, well, I'll show you. It works the same way. We're going to use an RTLSDR. Unfortunately, I could not use RxFM, which does the same thing as RTLFM, but it works with Soapy SDR and a lot of other kinds of hardware. I'm not using it because there's been an update and something is broken. It's totally no good. If you have other radio devices that can be operated from the command line, it's entirely possible to plug that code in instead of code using RTLFM. So, let's see. SDR bookmarks. So your choices are to tune, stop, reset the USB device, or edit the bookmarks. To edit, it brings up Vim, as you've seen before. If you want to reset the USB device, which is something you might have to do occasionally with an RTL-SDR, well, there's that. Reset successful, that fast. Let's try something else. Let's go graphical for a bit. In Rofi, SDR bookmarks, it's the same choices, just looks different. This one's graphical. Let's tune something in. Station on 95.5. Bring it up quickly so you don't get a Stop. Let's try something else. I haven't shown you the fuzzy search feature. Let's go with SDR bookmarks. Tune. How about... see if I can make this work. 104.7 wideband FM, music with non-safe for work Trump jokes on the hour. That's something I can listen to.
很多烟花不比我们以前小的时候那种这个杀伤力小可能一点点不足以伤害到孩子但是现在有一些烟花是网红烟花这种烟花的杀伤力是巨大的
Back to the notes. What else? Okay, let's talk about the scripts. The scripts are written in Bash, and we use awk and sed to help quickly accomplish the purpose of those scripts. They're fast. They don't use much RAM or CPU. Essentially, they read a list, offer choices, and execute commands. When a process needs to be killed, it does it quickly and cleanly. Look at the code, top to bottom. All right. We'll move over to this side of the screen here. Let's take a look first at the VLC playlist script. Again, it's written in Bash. The first thing that happens is we define a number of variables. The URLs for those stations are in a file called radio streams, and the options are start, stop, edit. We put them into a string. The delimiter separating each of those is the new line character /n. Now, depending on whether we're in the command line mode, we use Fzf, or graphical mode with Rofi, the commands are a bit different. Thus, they're condensed down to variables. Notice down at the bottom we have a couple of different commands to bring up the editor. In the command line, it's simply vim, the streams file. Using Rofi, first bring up the terminal emulator and then go into the editing with vim. The interface that we use is based on command line arguments. VLC playlist GUI brings up the GUI. VLC playlist or anything else besides GUI just runs it in the command line. So here's a response to your choices. When you have chosen an option, there's going to be a command. If what you have selected is option 1, to listen, the script is going to accomplish this long bit of code here. Just to save time, let me mention option 2, to stop. You go to the stop player function, which announces that it's going to stop the player, kill VLC. If you have chosen to edit, then it's going to go to command 3, which we looked at earlier, bring up vim. Now, when you have made the choice to listen to a station and you have picked the station you want to hear, the script then goes back into the list and it tries to match your selection with an item that's in the list. When it finds it, it then goes to the start player function. The start player function stops any running instances, pauses briefly, and then executes the command to bring up the media player. And that's how it works. SDR Bookmarks works in a similar fashion to the VLC playlist. It's not quite identical, but the basic idea is the same. Looking at the code, we start with the bookmarks file, define some variables for units to use when tuning frequencies, set the sampling rates, set a squelch level, and then we have some options. Option 1, tune. Option 2, stop. 3 is reset. 4 is edit the bookmarks. Those options go into a string, which we run through Fzf or Rofi. There are some commands which are tailored to either Fzf on the command line or Rofi as a graphical interface. Reset commands, and then notice command 4, which is the edit bookmarks command. One for Fzf in the command line, and the other one is when you're using Rofi. Now, you don't use Fzf to actually edit. It just means when you're in the command line mode open Vim, edit the bookmarks file. When you're in Rofi, select to edit, and it will take you out of Rofi. It will open a terminal emulator, and then you will edit the bookmark file. So let's move down a little bit more. We'll get the SDR frequency offset in Skywave Linux that is saved in a file. Likewise, the gain is saved in a file if you use the SDR parameters script. Here it is, SDR operating parameters. Now, outside of Skywave Linux, these options will be replaced by a simple declaration of a correction number, maybe 0, maybe something else, and a gain number that the user should enter themselves. I'll probably put that script on GitHub and put a simple number like 20 or 25 in there for the gain as a default, and 0 for the correction. If you're using a version 3 dongle or something better, then those should work fine. If you're using a piece of crap old RTLSDR with a 40 or 50 ppm difference, you're going to need to enter that in there. Otherwise, you'll have trouble tuning around. Okay, there are some functions written into the script. Stop SDR. That's right there. Essentially kill the RTL FM application. What else is here? Well, that's the end of defining functions. When you run the script, it's going to define these variables. It's going to pass that stop function. It's not going to do anything until you actually ask the script to stop the SDR. So what's going to happen is you'll come right down here. When you call the script with the GUI argument, you'll run in Rofi mode. When you call the script with anything else, it assumes you're on the command line, and it's going to be Fzf commands that run. Once those commands are defined, the script is going to offer you some choices. First, it's what do you want to do? The next thing, after you respond, it's going to either stop the SDR, reset the USB device, or bring up the editor. If you decide that you want to listen to a station or a frequency on your SDR, what's going to happen is it's going to read the bookmarks file. And depending on what you have chosen, this actually defines the choice. It pushes those items in the bookmark file through Fzf or Rofi, and it defines a variable called choice. If you have chosen to listen, then stop the SDR, pause for a moment, default sampling rate blank, default squelch blank, and then it sets in audio rate 48,000. Frequency, it's going to come from that list. Mode is going to come from that list. It's the second entry. If your mode is FM, set the sampling rate. Also set the audio rate and set the squelch. Likewise, if you're running an AM, it's going to set an AM sampling rate, an audio rate, and a squelch. Then it will call RTLFM, -M for mode, wideband FM, AM FM. In theory, you can run upper or lower sideband as well. I haven't tried it. There's nothing for me to listen to, but it should work. And it will take the frequency, correction, and the other parameters. And very soon after that, you should hear some live signals or static, whatever is happening where you're listening. Option 2, 3, and 4 we've talked about. Stop, reset USB, or edit the bookmarks. So those are the scripts. If you're interested in using them yourself, you can find the code on GitHub. My repo is AB9IL. That's Alpha Bravo 9 or India Lima. Just the letters, not the phonetics. Or stand by for fresh updates to Skywave Linux, Catbird Linux, and even Mofo Linux. I'll be putting those out shortly, and those scripts will be in there. Thank you for your attention and have a wonderful day.